What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks onto a morning talk show expecting a respectful conversation, only to be met with accusations, dismissive remarks, and a host who seems more interested in creating controversy than conducting an interview? In just 42 seconds, a simple question about his latest project would spiral into one of the most shocking confrontations in morning television history, ending with a legendary actor walking off the set and leaving an entire studio in stunned silence. It started like any other celebrity interview. Denzel Washington sat down across from Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show set, the bright studio lights reflecting off the polished desk between them. Hoda Kotb and Al Roker sat nearby, ready to chime in with their usual warmth and enthusiasm. The audience applauded as Denzel settled into his chair, flashing that trademark smile that had charmed moviegoers for decades. Savannah jumped right in, barely waiting for the applause to die down. So, Denzel, your new film has been getting some mixed reviews. Some critics are saying you're just playing the same character over and over again. What do you say to that? The smile on Denzel's face flickered, but he maintained his composure. Well, I wouldn't say that's accurate. Each role I take on has its own unique challenges and... But you have to admit, Savannah interrupted, leaning forward with a sharp edge in her voice. There's a certain formula to your performances now, isn't there? The tough guy with a heart of gold? We've seen it a dozen times. Hoda shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Al Roker's eyebrows raised slightly, clearly surprised by the aggressive tone. Denzel took a breath, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. I think if you actually watch the films, you'd see the depth and nuance in each character. I don't choose roles based on formulas. I choose stories that matter. Stories that matter, Savannah repeated, her tone dripping with skepticism. Is that why you turned down that independent film last year? The one about social justice? Too small for your taste? Not enough money in it? The studio went quiet. Even the crew members behind the cameras exchanged glances. This wasn't a typical interview. This was an ambush. I'm sorry, Denzel said slowly, his voice calm but firm. I don't know where you're getting your information, but that's not what happened. Oh, so you're saying the director was lying when he said you demanded twice your usual fee? Savannah pressed, consulting notes that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. I'm saying, Denzel replied, his patience clearly wearing thin, that you're misrepresenting a private conversation and making assumptions about my character based on gossip. Hoda tried to intervene. Maybe we should talk about the actual film that Denzel is here to discuss today. It sounds like a really powerful story about... We'll get to that, Savannah cut her off, without even looking in her direction. She turned back to Denzel. But I think our viewers deserve to know who they're really supporting when they buy a movie ticket. Are you the humble, dedicated actor you present yourself as? Or is that just another performance? The air in the studio became thick with tension. Denzel sat back in his chair, studying Savannah with an intensity that could cut glass. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here? I'm trying to have an honest conversation, Savannah said, her voice rising slightly. I'm tired of these softball interviews where we just praise celebrities and let them promote whatever they're selling. I want the truth. The truth, Denzel repeated, nodding slowly. You want the truth. Okay. The truth is that I came here as a guest on your show, expecting a professional interview. Instead, you've spent the last several minutes attacking my integrity, based on rumors and half-truths. I'm not attacking you, Savannah protested, though her tone suggested otherwise. I'm asking legitimate questions that... You're not asking questions, Denzel interrupted, his voice rising for the first time. You're making accusations. There's a difference. Al Roker jumped in, trying to diffuse the situation. Hey, why don't we take a quick break and... No, Savannah said firmly. We're not taking a break. Denzel, if you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. The words hung in the air like a grenade waiting to explode. Denzel's eyes narrowed. The legendary composure he was known for was beginning to crack, not out of weakness, but out of justified frustration. Can't handle tough questions? Denzel's voice was dangerously quiet. I've been doing interviews for over 40 years. I've answered tough questions about race, about politics, about social issues that actually matter. What you're doing isn't journalism. It's character assassination dressed up as curiosity. Savannah leaned back, crossing her arms. So now I'm a bad journalist because I won't treat you with kid gloves. You're a bad journalist, Denzel said, his voice steady and clear, because you're more interested in creating a spectacle than having a real conversation. You invited me here under false pretenses. Hoda put her hand on Savannah's arm. Maybe we should just... Savannah shook her off. No, Hoda. I'm not going to back down just because he's a big star. She turned back to Denzel. You know what I think? I think you're used to everyone bowing down to you. Used to people telling you how great you are. And now that someone's actually challenging you, you can't handle it. The room went completely silent. Camera operators, producers, everyone on set seemed to hold their breath. Denzel stood up slowly, deliberately, removing the microphone from his lapel with measured movements. What are you doing? Savannah asked, suddenly looking less confident. I'm leaving, Denzel said simply. I don't have to sit here and be disrespected. I came here to talk about a film that I'm proud of, a film that tells an important story. But you're not interested in that. You're interested in tearing me down for ratings. Oh, here we go, Savannah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The big dramatic exit. Very original. Denzel paused, turning back to face her. You know what's sad? You had an opportunity here. An opportunity to have a meaningful conversation about art, about storytelling, about the responsibilities we have as people in the public eye. But instead, you chose to be small. You chose to be mean-spirited. And that says a lot more about you than it does about me. Don't lecture me, Savannah snapped. I've worked just as hard as you have to get where I am. Then act like it, Denzel replied. Act like someone who earned their position through skill and integrity, not by ambushing guests and twisting their words. Al Roker stood up, trying one more time to salvage the situation. Denzel, please, let's just take a breath and... I appreciate you, Al, Denzel said, his tone softening slightly. And you, Hoda. But I'm not staying somewhere where the host has already decided who I am before I even opened my mouth. Savannah stood up now too, her face flushed. You can't just walk off my show. Your show? Denzel looked around at the other hosts, at the crew, at the cameras. Is that what this is about? Your ego? This isn't about ego, Savannah insisted, though her defensive posture suggested otherwise. This is about holding powerful people accountable. Accountable for what? Denzel's voice rose again. What exactly have I done that requires your particular brand of accountability? I've spent my entire career trying to do good work, trying to tell stories that matter, trying to be a decent human being. And you sit there with your notes and your attitude, acting like you've uncovered some great scandal because I didn't take one particular role. It's not just about one role, Savannah shot back. It's about a pattern of behavior. It's about the image you project versus the reality. What reality? Denzel demanded. The reality that exists in your head? The reality you've constructed from gossip columns and anonymous sources? I don't know what I did to deserve this treatment, but I know I don't have to stand here and take it. Hoda stood up, her voice gentle but firm. Savannah, this has gone too far. Denzel is our guest. He was our guest, Savannah corrected, her eyes never leaving Denzel's face, until he decided to throw a tantrum and storm off. That was it, the final straw. Denzel shook his head slowly, a sad smile crossing his face. You really don't see it, do you? You really think you're in the right here? I know I am, Savannah said defiantly. Then I feel sorry for you, Denzel said quietly. I really do. Because somewhere along the way, you forgot what this job is supposed to be about. It's not about tearing people down. It's not about gotcha moments and viral clips. It's about connection, about understanding, about bringing light instead of heat. Save the inspirational speech, Savannah said dismissively. You're not in one of your movies. No, I'm not, Denzel agreed. In a movie, I'd have better dialogue to work with. In a movie, the antagonist would at least have a valid point. He turned to the camera. To anyone watching at home, I apologize that you didn't get to hear about the film today. It's a story about dignity, about standing up for yourself when the world tries to diminish you. I guess I'm living that story right now. He started walking toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the silent studio. Running away, Savannah called after him. That's your solution? Denzel stopped, but didn't turn around. I'm not running from anything. I'm walking away from toxicity. There's a difference. I fought too hard and too long to let someone treat me like this. On national television. So you admit you can't handle criticism, Savannah pressed. Now Denzel did turn around, and the look on his face made even Savannah take a step back. Criticism would be welcome. Criticism is constructive. What you're doing is destruction. You're trying to humiliate me because you think it makes you look tough. It doesn't. It makes you look insecure. How dare you? Savannah breathed. How dare I? Denzel's voice was incredulous. How dare you? You invited me here. You brought me onto your platform, and then you used that platform to attack me. That's not brave. That's cowardly. Al Roker moved between them, his hands raised. Okay, everybody needs to calm down. This is getting out of hand. It got out of hand the moment she decided to turn an interview into an inquisition, Denzel said, his voice finally showing real anger. I've been in this industry long enough to know when someone's got an agenda. And your agenda, he pointed at Savannah, has nothing to do with truth or accountability. It's about making yourself feel important by trying to make me feel small. That's not true, Savannah protested, but her voice wavered slightly. Isn't it? Denzel challenged. Then tell me, what was the point of bringing up that film from last year? What did that have to do with the project I'm here to discuss? What did it have to do with anything except trying to embarrass me? Savannah opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time since the interview started, she seemed at a loss for words. That's what I thought, Denzel said. You didn't have a reason. You just wanted to throw something at me and see if it would stick. Hoda moved closer to Savannah. Maybe we should apologize and... I'm not apologizing, Savannah said quickly, finding her voice again. I was doing my job. Your job is to inform and entertain, Denzel countered. Not to bully and belittle. There are ways to ask hard questions with respect. You chose not to do that. Because people like you expect everyone to bow and scrape, Savannah shot back. Well, I won't do it. I won't pretend you're perfect just because you've won some awards. I never asked you to pretend I'm perfect, Denzel said, his exhaustion showing now. I never claimed to be perfect. I'm a human being who makes mistakes like everyone else. But I don't deserve to be treated like a criminal because you have some chip on your shoulder about celebrity. The words hit hard. Savannah's face turned red. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. Then what would you call this? Denzel gestured at the set, at the disaster the interview had become. What would you call the way you've conducted yourself for the last 10 minutes? Savannah's mouth opened and closed several times. The other hosts watched the exchange with a mixture of horror and fascination. The crew remained frozen, unsure whether to keep filming or cut away. I was trying to get real answers, Savannah finally said, but the fire had gone out of her voice. No, Denzel said firmly. You were trying to create drama, and you succeeded. Congratulations. You got your viral moment. You got your headline. But at what cost? He didn't wait for an answer. He turned back toward the exit, his shoulders squared, his head held high. "Denzel, wait!" Hoda called out, her voice pleading. "Please don't go like this." He paused at her words, turning to give her a small, sad smile. "You're good people, Hoda. You too, Al. This isn't about you. But I can't stay here. I won't let anyone treat me this way, no matter how big their platform is." "This is ridiculous," Savannah muttered, but she sounded less sure of herself now. "You're being overdramatic." Denzel looked at her one last time. "Am I? Or am I simply refusing to accept unacceptable behavior? There's a difference between being dramatic and having self-respect. I learned a long time ago that you teach people how to treat you, and I'm teaching you right now that this," he gestured between them, "this is not okay." "Fine," Savannah said, crossing her arms again. "Leave then. See if I care." "That's the thing," Denzel said softly. "You should care. You should care about how you treat people. You should care about the example you're setting. You should care about basic human decency. But clearly, you don't." With that, he turned and walked off the set. His footsteps were the only sound in the entire studio. No one spoke. No one moved. They all watched as one of the most respected actors of his generation simply walked away, refusing to participate in his own humiliation. As he reached the studio door, he paused one final time without turning around. "I hope whatever you were trying to prove was worth it." Then he was gone. The studio remained silent for several long seconds. Savannah stood frozen at the desk, her expression unreadable. Hoda had tears in her eyes. Al Roker looked like he wanted to disappear. The camera operators didn't know where to point their lenses. Finally, Savannah cleared her throat. "Well, that was, we'll be right back after this break." But even as she said the words, everyone in that studio knew that nothing would be the same. The mask had slipped. The facade had cracked. And millions of viewers had just witnessed a masterclass in dignity from a man who refused to be diminished, facing off against a host who had forgotten that respect is not weakness and tough questions don't require cruelty. The cameras kept rolling even as they cut to commercial, capturing Savannah's face as reality began to set in. Capturing the moment when she realized that her attempt to appear strong and uncompromising had backfired spectacularly. Capturing the exact second when she understood that history would not remember this as the day she held a powerful celebrity accountable, but as the day she drove a legendary actor off her set through sheer hostility. Hoda walked over to her, speaking too quietly for the microphones to pick up. Whatever she said made Savannah's shoulders slump. Al Roker joined them, his usually cheerful face serious and concerned. The three hosts huddled together, the weight of what had just happened settling over them like a heavy blanket. Meanwhile, somewhere beyond those studio doors, Denzel Washington walked through the hallways with his head held high, his dignity intact, his self-respect uncompromised. He had come to talk about his art, about his passion, about a story that mattered to him. Instead, he had been forced to defend his character against baseless attacks and veiled insults. But he had not bent. He had not broken. He had simply walked away, demonstrating that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to engage with people who have no intention of treating you fairly. The interview that was supposed to last 20 minutes had imploded in less than 15. The segment that was meant to promote a film had instead exposed the darker side of morning television, where the pursuit of ratings and viral moments sometimes overshadows basic professional courtesy. Back on the set, as the commercial break continued, Savannah finally spoke. That didn't go as planned. It was perhaps the understatement of the year. What was planned as a hard-hitting interview had turned into a public relations nightmare. What was supposed to make Savannah look like a fearless journalist had instead made her look like a bully who picked the wrong target. Because Denzel Washington was not just any celebrity. He was a man who had earned his status through decades of exceptional work, who had maintained his dignity and grace throughout a long career, who had never been involved in scandal or controversy. And watching him be treated with such disrespect, watching him be talked over and accused and dismissed, had struck a nerve with everyone in that studio and everyone watching at home. The commercial break ended. The cameras came back on. Savannah tried to compose herself, tried to regain control of a show that had careened wildly off the rails. But there was no recovering from what had just happened. There was no spinning it, no reframing it, no pretending it had gone any way other than disastrously. "Welcome back," she said, her voice not quite steady. "As you saw, our interview with Denzel Washington ended earlier than expected. We'll have more on that later." But the damage was done. The moment was captured. The confrontation was complete. And somewhere, Denzel Washington was probably already on his way to the airport, shaking his head at the absolute circus his simple publicity appearance had become. He had walked onto that set as a guest. He had left as a man who knew his worth, who understood that no amount of fame or success obligated him to tolerate disrespect. He had shown, in the most public way possible, that there are lines that should not be crossed, regardless of who you are or what platform you have. And in doing so, he had turned what was supposed to be a routine interview into an unforgettable moment of television, one that would be analyzed and discussed and debated for years to come. Not because of what he said, but because of what he refused to accept. Not because of how he fought back, but because of how he walked away. It was a reminder that dignity is not something that can be taken from you. It's something you give away. And Denzel Washington, on that bright morning in that television studio, chose to keep his dignity intact, even if it meant walking away from an interview that had gone so terribly, irredeemably wrong.